Hello, hello. Welcome to day 4 of the festival. Very excited to be here. Hello, hello guys. So I want to share with you today I want to ask you first a question. Who would like to have it all? Because I'm going to share with you today that it is possible to have it all, but it might not be in the way that you expect. So I'm going to share my story, and I'm going to share my story around how I got my dream house, which, if I'm not going to say anything, I'm just going to tell the story. Because I wouldn't, if I hadn't experienced it, I wouldn't believe it myself. But I'm also going to share with you, because you might be thinking, oh, that's all very nice for her finding her dream house, but what's that got to do with me getting fully booked and growing my business? I'm going to share with you some lessons and stories that will help you in your journey too. And then I'm going to share with you my 5-step energetic breakthrough process that I used. And as I was going through this journey of buying this house, I doubled down on this energy work. I had to really dig deep many, many times. So that's a very practical, step-by-step process that you can use in your business too. So I want to take you back about 2 years ago. So about 2 years ago, I was living in Harpenden, a lovely leafy suburb north of London, in a beautiful little 2-up, 2-down cottage. I was very happy. I loved my little cottage. I had amazing friends and neighbours. We'd bonded during lockdowns. We had a beautiful community. I was in a relationship with the love of my life. We had a really, really fun time together. My boys had left home, so it was just me and the dog living in our little cottage, and it was wonderful. I was really, really happy. But, and there's always a but, isn't there? But one thing that had frustrated and triggered and troubled me for a long, long time, for years actually, if I'm honest, I'm being really, really honest, I'm not holding anything back, was my relationship with money, my ability to create money. And the only but to this beautiful life that I was living was that I was renting. Now, I'm not here to cast any shame or belittle anyone else that's renting. I rented for 11 years post my first divorce. But for me, renting to me felt like a failure, because I'd had the beautiful family home. I bought my first flat when I was in my 20s, living in London. I'd spent 5 years saving up for the deposit, bought this flat, got myself on the property market, done all the sensible things. Then when I got married, I went and lived in America and bought a lovely house in America. Then I came back and we bought a lovely house here. I'd initiated our divorce, and in my mind, I had thrown away that financial security, the family home, and the place where I started to put roots down. I was responsible for throwing all that away. That's how I saw it in my mind. And so even though I was happy living in my little cottage with the dog and my lovely friends and neighbours and boyfriend, I always had this feeling. And every time people would say, what are your goals for the year? You know, for 11 years, my goal was, I want to own my own home again. I want to be able to put roots down and feel safety in the world, safety in myself. And it's interesting, Denise talks about this a lot in her money programs. Those feelings that I had were very low. If you're familiar with the emotional vibrational scale, those feelings I had were very at the low end of that emotional vibrational scale. I had feelings around money of guilt and shame. And I was embarrassed for anyone to know that I was renting. And I know for some of you probably think it sounds ridiculous, but for me, I felt embarrassed because I'd in my mind thrown away what I'd already had. But also I was running a successful business. I'm a property investor and a landlord too, so I own rental properties, but I wasn't making enough money on my own that I could buy my own home in the area that I wanted to live in. And I lived in a really lovely area and it wasn't cheap. But in my mind, again, that made me a failure because I wasn't owning enough to buy a house there, to buy my own home. And those feelings of guilt and shame and embarrassment, very low level energy, but that really affected, I mean, I didn't realize it at the time, but looking back, I can see it now. It really affected my relationship with money, and it really affected my ability to grow my business in the way I wanted to grow it. There was a lot, it's almost like the hands pulling you down in the weeds. You're stuck in those lower energies, in that part of your psyche. So for me, it was, always around money and those money relationships. And the ironic thing, and I'm still learning the lessons of this, but the ironic thing is the boyfriend that I had at that time, my partner, is a millionaire. So how interesting is that for the universe to send me a millionaire? And there's me struggling and feeling all this shame and guilt around money. So, as I said, every year I'd write on my goals list, I want to own my own home again. I want to own my home. I want to be able to put roots down and own my own home again, and feel, for me, that signified stability, financial stability, and safety. At a very deep core level, I didn't feel safe in the world. And again, I know some of you are probably thinking that feeling of safety doesn't come from bricks and mortar. It doesn't come from money. But there was part of me that needed that. And I think because my parents both died young, my boys had left home, here I am in my 50s, a single divorced woman, not able to buy a place, and just feeling untethered in the world. I don't know if anyone can relate to that. So I was also at that time doing a lot of energy work. I was using the process that I'm going to teach you in a moment, but I was also working with spiritual guides, my own guides. I was working with people that I respect and trust. And what was interesting is there was a very strong message coming through that this relationship that I was in was part of the block of stopping me moving forward into where I wanted to be in my business and financially. And that was really, really hard, because what if you've got a part of your life you're really happy with and somebody you love, but there's another part that you never be able to expand and grow beyond a certain point because there's a restriction there. And I know these things happen for a reason, and sometimes you need the buffer of time to look back to realize why things happen the way they do. But I've done enough energy work, I'm spiritual enough that I knew there was a good reason for this message coming up, for these signs to come up. So fast forward a year from that point, and that relationship, I'd ended that relationship very reluctantly. It took me a long time. I was very reluctant, but ended that relationship. I decided to trust in myself and trust the universe that on the other side of the heartache and the being heartbroken was bigger and better things for me. I believed that. So fast forward a year, walking down the road one evening, completely different part of the UK. And I'm with a new partner. So I'm with someone I haven't known very long. It's quite a new relationship. But there we were, I'd gone to his for the weekend. We were walking down the road to the pub with the dog and walked past this house. Now this house was really run down. It was very dilapidated. But as a property investor and somebody that likes doing up properties, my little property radar went up and I thought, ooh, that's a nice house and that needs a lot of work. That would be a really fun project. So of course the brain started ticking, and it was a very old, black and white sort of timber framed house, and you could tell it was in terrible condition. So of course got to the pub, straight on the phone onto Rightmove, having a look at this house. And my partner had not considered, he was in a situation where he was also single, post-divorce, renting, thinking he'd never be able to, own his own place again. And so over a couple of drinks, you can imagine what happened. The thought process started, and we looked at this house and we worked out that if we combined all our resources, we could buy this place together and do it up. So we sat there in this pub, not having known each other very long, and decided that we would go into business together and do a joint venture and buy this house together, put everything we had into it and do it up, sell it, and then have some money to do other things with. So that was the plan. So we put an offer in on the house. It was all really exciting. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I hardly know this person. What am I doing? But again, I had to just trust myself. I was doing all the energy work, trusting the process, all the signs were green lights, go, keep moving down this road. Anyway, the offer wasn't accepted and we were so disappointed for about 5 minutes, because I realized that this wasn't the dream house. But what had it done, finding this house on this particular day had actually lit a fire inside both of us, that we wanted to do a project together, and that if we put our resources together from what we were both paying for renting our properties and bills and everything separately, put all that into a pot together, we could actually afford to buy a house and do it up together. So we started looking in that area, because where I'd lived before, where I absolutely loved, was a lot more expensive. So we started looking in this local area, and not very long after that I found my dream home. And do you know, have you ever been in a situation, let me know in the comments, have you ever been in a situation where you've seen something and you just know instantly that that's for you, that person? The same thing happened with me with my dog. When my last dog died, I went looking for a new dog straight away, and I saw my dog on the RSPCA website, and I knew the second I saw his picture, I knew he was for me, and I knew that we were meant to be together. And off I drove for 6 hours to go and see him and meet him, and you know, we've now been together nearly 4 years. It was the same with the house. The minute I saw the house, I knew. So just let me know in the comments if you can relate to this. I knew I was going to have that house. I didn't know how I was going to make it work. I didn't know what was going to happen. I had no idea of all the ups and downs I was going to have to go through to get this house, but I knew we were going to have this house. So all very exciting. Again, we looked at the numbers, we looked at money and how we were going to make it work. Put an offer in for the house. Really, really excited. Normally when you put an offer in on a house, you hear quite quickly, don't you? You hear within a day or so, because they want to sell the house. Anyway, nothing happened. Nothing happened. And I was chasing the agent, and I was doing all the energy work. Nothing was happening. It was just completely stalled. So it was time to call in the big guns. So I contacted my friend Felicia, who is a crystal expert. I knew she would be able to help. I booked a session with Felicia, and I don't know if you're here, Felicia, but if you are, you'll be chuckling to yourself hearing this. And in this session, it was amazing. What happened was, Felicia said, well, the reason why you're not getting a response is that the owner of the house had died. So the house had been sitting empty, but she'd died. And she said the owner of the house doesn't want the house to be sold. She's blocking the sale from the other side. Now what happened was, the owner of the house had died relatively young. I think she was only 70, and she died very quickly and unexpectedly. And she wanted the house to stay in the family and to go to one of her daughters. So the daughters didn't want the house. They'd put the house on the market, but the mum, who'd lived in the house since the 80s and loved the house, she was very bonded with the house, she wanted it to stay in the family, so she was blocking the sale. So that's why we weren't getting any answers, and that's why nothing was happening. And so Felicia worked her magic with the crystals and gave me some advice, and I did my energy work, and she was working with the crystals. But here's the really interesting thing. not only was Felicia working with the lady who'd owned the house and died, but she was also working with the house, and a house has its own energy. Did you guys know that your house, your home, where you live, your house has an energy? I think I didn't really appreciate that fully until I went through this experience. So the house was sitting there empty. The house wanted life and somebody to move in and appreciate it and love it and bring energy back in. And the garden was all neglected and overgrown, and the garden, the fairies in the garden wanted someone to come in, but the lady was blocking and blocking. So Felicia actually communicated with her, and by a process of Felicia's magic and working with the crystals, the lady agreed. She said, yeah, actually I do realise that my daughters don't want the house. It's just very hard for me to let the house go. But she said, you're exactly, I want someone in the house. I don't want someone to buy the house and just do it to make money. Just do it as an investment. I want someone to really love and treasure the house. And I think she knew that we would love and treasure the house. And of course, what was interesting is we'd sat in the pub that night and come up with this idea for doing a joint venture together as an investment. But this house we knew was going to be different, and we both knew before we moved in that this was where we wanted to be, and that it was going to be more than, it wasn't going to be a do up and flip, it was going to be our home. And this lady knew this, and that came through. And so of course, not long after that, offer was accepted. Yay, so we got the house. Felicia said to me, I'm going to warn you that this is not going to be an easy process. There are so many moving parts to you having this house. The universe has literally got to rearrange people, places, financial institutions, legal processes. Literally, there are many, many, many moving parts. This is not going to be a straightforward process. Be prepared for some roadblocks, and be prepared and be patient. You're going to have to be patient, and I'm not a patient person. And Felicia said, I've got some crystals that are going to help you through this process. And we'd arranged to meet, so I wanted to thank Felicia. So we'd arranged to meet, and I was going to take her for afternoon tea at a lovely house near here, House and Gardens. We were going to go for a walk, have an afternoon tea. She was going to bring the crystals. It was all organised. And what happened was, Felicia had actually arranged that same day to go and meet another friend of hers who happens to live nearby to go and have some treatments for herself. And we'd arranged to meet in the afternoon, and I waited and waited and waited. There was no word, and I thought, oh gosh, I hope everything's okay. Anyway, eventually I heard from Felicia a few days later, and she said, I'm really sorry. Everything's taken much longer than I thought. I've got a lot to process, and I really want to drive back. It's a long drive home. I just actually really want to get back now. Do you mind if we postpone our tea and do it another time? And I thought, oh no, okay, that's fine, as long as you're okay. The next day, Felicia messaged me and said, I forgot to tell you, I've left those crystals with this lady in Oxford. She's got them for you. Next time you go, she said, you can go round and pick them up. So I thought, okay, that's great, My son had then contacted me and said, oh, Mum, my girlfriend and I'd like to come for the weekend and we want to spend the day in Oxford. So I thought, perfect, we're all going to Oxford. So I contacted this lady and said, can I pop round and pick up these crystals? She had no idea what was going on. Anyway, for those of you who were in the UK about 18 months ago, you may or may not remember, we had a period of time where we had 3 different prime ministers. Does anyone remember that? We had 3 prime ministers. One of those prime ministers royally fucked up the financial system in the UK. And what happened was the lenders all suddenly went, the stock market tanked, everything went into free fall, and then the mortgage lenders all panicked. Now, keeping in mind that by this stage we've got a mortgage offer, So we've worked out all our sums of what we need to buy this house. We've got our mortgage offer. We know what the deposit is. Everything's all organised. We've got our solicitors ready to go. In comes Liz Truss, panics the banking system. The mortgage providers all go, oh no, what's happening? We better withdraw all our products. And we didn't lose our mortgage, but they reduced the amount that we could borrow. They changed all their criteria, and even though we had a initial offer, that the amount we could borrow was reduced. So now we had a gap. Now we had a gap of between what we needed to buy the house and what we actually had. And this is with the two of us running around and doing all this financial stuff. So I went to Oxford that day with my son and his girlfriend thinking, right, it's been really, really stressful, but I'm just going to have a really nice day with my son and his girlfriend. I'm going to go and see this lady and pick up these crystals, and I'm just going to not think about it. I'm going to trust the universe. I know I'm going to have the house, and let's just see what happens. And off we went. It was a lovely sunny day. So there I am sitting in the garden of this lady in Oxford who's got my crystals, and we were chatting, and she asked me what's going on, and I said, oh, we found this amazing house. It's a dream house. I'm so excited. And she said, oh, when are you moving? I think that's what she said. When are you moving? And I said, well, here's the thing. We were all on track. Everything was sorted. But, now we've got this issue with the mortgage. And she said, unfortunately, we've now got a bit of a gap. So obviously we've got to sort that out before we get a date, before we get a moving date. And she said, oh, how much of a gap have you got? And I remember thinking, oh, I can't believe you're asking. I was thinking, that's a bit nosy. But I told her, because I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose. I'm leaning back and trusting the universe. I'm just being guided. So I told her. And she looked me in the eye and she said, this might be crazy, but she said, I've got that money and I would like to lend it to you. I could lend you the money so that you can have your house. I was absolutely speechless. Do you know when you hear something and you think, I don't think I heard that right. That can't have been what I heard. And my brain was going, trying to process, and I thought, it sounds to me like she's just offered me the money that we need. And I was thinking, no, that can't be right. I don't know this person well enough. How will I pay it back? All these thoughts, and I think I was just like my jaw was just on the ground. So I think we just sat there for a couple of minutes just sort of looking at each other, and it was like energetic exchange, but just wow. And then I started to think, I'm being offered, I've asked the universe to help me, and I've been offered the money that we need to buy the house. I'm going to say yes. And of course I'm thinking, what if? Can I borrow money from someone I don't know very well? Is it going to be weird? All these things. But anyway, we agreed, and I remember going home that day, going back to the house, going back to my partner's house, and saying, he said, oh, did you have a nice time in Oxford today? And I said, yeah, I had a great time and got the money for the house. And he just looked at me and laughed like, yeah, right, you've come back and you've got, X amount of money. I said, yeah, I've got the money for the house. It's happening. Even now, just sharing this, it just seems so incredible. It doesn't seem possible. And guys, I can't see any comments, so I hope this is coming through okay. I hope you can see me. So on we go again with the house, buying the house, getting everything organized, packing up and putting things in storage and all the things you do in a buy a house. Then we hit another roadblock, a really big roadblock this time. Even more of a roadblock. Well, I don't know, not having, having a gap in money was a roadblock. So here's another roadblock. So we had different commitments to the house. So one of my commitments to the house was to put a certain amount of money in from my pension. So I agreed I was going to cash in one of my pensions to pay part of the deposit for this house. Now, I used to live and work in America, so I decided I had, interestingly enough, again, one of these weird and wonderful things, got a statement, from my 401k in the States. The amount of money in there was exactly the money that I needed. By the time you transferred it from dollars to pounds, it was exactly the right amount of money, take off the tax, exactly the amount of money. So again, you're thinking, thank you, universe, thank you for lining this up. So you think, how hard can it be? The money's there and it needs to be here, and you just move the money, right? Anyone else thinking that? How hard can it be? The money's there, you just need to move it. Oh my gosh. This started a process that I don't think I've ever been so stressed in my life. So what happened was I cashed in this money, a check was sent, check arrived, but the check, of course, was sent in dollars. So I went to my bank and I said, I've got this money. This is the deposit for our house. It's in dollars. I know you're going to have to change it into pounds. I know there's going to be a fee. How long is it going to take? And I remember standing in the bank and they said, the sucking of the lips. Oh, that's a big amount of money and it's in dollars. Oh no, that's going to take 3 to 4 weeks. And I remember thinking, 3 to 4 weeks, oh my gosh. And of course, the solicitors were pushing, the estate agents were pushing, the seller of the house who'd been going through probate, they're now pushing. Everyone's putting pressure on us to buy this house, to have an exchange and completion date. And in the UK, legally, you can't have a moving date, exchange completion date, until you have the money in the bank. So I thought having the check would be enough for us to at least put a flag in the sand for a moving date to get everybody off my back. But no, it wasn't. The solicitor said, no, the money has to be in cleared funds in your bank account. Having a check in American dollars is not going to cut it. So I started chasing and chasing. I waited for 3.5 weeks. There was no sign of any money. And then I started chasing. I was calling my bank, and then they put me on the bank in America. And then there was the clearing bank in the middle, and it went all this process. 4 weeks went by, 5 weeks went by, 6 weeks went by, still no money. By now I'm really super stressed because I've got all these people, the sellers talking about pulling out, the estate agents calling every single day saying, when are you exchanging? We were ready to move, we had everything packed up, we're living in boxes, everything was in hold, it was terrible. So I went back to my friend Felicia, I booked another session, I said, please can you help? Something again has got stuck. I don't know what it is. I know we're going to have the house. I'm trusting, I'm doing all the energy work, but something has happened. We're stuck again. So Felicia got out her crystals, worked her magic, and she said, yeah, your check, which is now six weeks post me taking it to the bank, is sitting in somebody's in tray in America. This person is operating at a very, very low energy level. We're talking low levels of energy, very low levels of consciousness. This person does not want to help you to get your money. This person is almost blocking you having your money. This person doesn't care. They're a low level, like a low paid person. They just doing what they want to do, going through the motions. So of course I'm like, oh my gosh, that's, and I'm thinking I need to get that money to get the house so we can move house. So Felicia had to do a lot of work with the crystals, and not just on that amount of money and bringing it back into the UK for the solicitors, but actually clearing a lot of ancestral, deep, historical, low-level energy stuff within the banking system. So you can imagine that's a lot to have to deal with. But guess what? Less than a week later, the money was in my bank account. So thank you, Felicia. You are amazing. So if anyone's stuck with anything, you know who to go and talk to, and use the energy work. Because obviously this is a team effort. It's you working with the universe. I was getting extra help. I had to call in the big guns a couple of times. So there was the money, got the moving day. We missed Christmas, unfortunately, but we moved in a year ago on the 11th of January. So if you're into numerology, 111, to a house that is number 8 for wealth and abundance. And, I've been here a year now, so much has unlocked. So I just wanted to share that with you to show you that you can have everything and anything you want, but it might not be what you expect. If you said to me 2 years ago that I would be here with the person I'm with, in the house I'm in, doing what I'm doing, having been through some of these experiences, I wouldn't have believed you. I just wouldn't have. I was so entrenched in where I was. So let me share with you the energetic process that I used throughout this whole journey, throughout this whole experience. And this is the process that I use. So in this story, I'm talking about how I manifested my dream home, which is here I am, and I'm grateful for it every day. But this process you can use for relationships, clients, sales, money. This is about lifting your level of consciousness, and this is about being, not doing. So the process I want to show you is called the Real Shift Method. And this is it's an energy breakthrough method that I have created based on my experience, based on the processes that I use and the tools in my toolkit. So the Real Shift Method is a 4-step, it's actually 5 steps, but let's do the real because that's 4. So R is for raising consciousness. So what do I mean by raising consciousness? So there's 4 levels of consciousness. You've got the to me, the victim mode. You've got the by me, which is the hustle mode. You've got through me, which is the flow mode, and you've got as me, which is the oneness consciousness. And when you're stuck in the lower levels, those, when I talked about shame and guilt and embarrassment, that's very much putting you in that to me. Things are happening to me. I'm not in control. I'm not able to make things happen in the life in the way I want them to happen. Next level up is by me, which is the hustle mode. That's doing. If you're stuck in that level of doing in your business, looking for clients, marketing, trying to get clients, trying to make sales, doing all the masterclasses, doing all the things, that is the by me consciousness. Great for getting stuff done, but also great for burning out and getting exhausted. When you can get into the flow state, the through me consciousness, this is when you're working with the universe and allowing the universe to flow through you. How do you do that? Well, this R of the Real Shift Method is about spending time, and I've got a 3-3-3 routine that I use every morning, and the first 3 minutes is about just sitting and being aware of what's in your conscious mind. What are the stories, the limiting beliefs, the negative emotions, the negative energies that you're sitting with? And you'll know when you wake up and sometimes you have that feeling that those are energies that need to be cleared. But what we do when we're busy, if you get up in the morning and you start doing, you'll just put yourself into by me consciousness. To get into that flow state, we need to just sit with ourselves quietly and allow ourselves to be at one with the universe, and to allow the universe to create and co-create with us and flow through us. So I use different methods. For example, you can use meditation. Journaling is one of my favorite ways to become aware of the feelings that I'm feeling and to release them. And if you're able to become aware of how you feel, the stories, the beliefs, but also the energy behind them, that means that that energy is ready to be released, and it's relatively easy to release that if it's come up to that surface level. So I do that mainly through journaling, but you can use meditation, you can use tapping, EFT, you can use oils and essences. There's so many different ways, but the first step is to be aware, to realize what there is that needs to be released. The second step, the E, is embody. Embody the next level of what you want. So for you to embody, again, sit there for 3 minutes, put your timer on for 3 minutes, and just allow yourself to be and sit in that energy of having the thing that you want, but fully embodying it. You have to feel it. So in the same way that I knew when I saw this house, I knew that the house was going to be mine. I'd already embodied it. But you can also evoke that feeling. But you have to give yourself the space to allow yourself to get into that energy. So that's the second. A is asking for guidance. And this is the third step of the 333, is to again sit, put your timer on for 3 minutes and ask for guidance. So you literally sit and you ask in your mind, what should I focus on today? What would you have me do today? And you just sit really quietly for 3 minutes, ask those questions in your mind, and you just listen. And that's the L of the real shift method, is to listen. And what happens, this is like a muscle. Over time, the muscle gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And over time, this process gets to become second nature. And I don't have to sit down and think REAL, 3 minutes, 3 minutes. Now it just happens for me naturally. But when I first started using this process, particularly when, here's the thing, when things are going well, it's really easy to do the energy work, isn't it? It's really easy to be doing, I can meditate and journal and stuff when things are going well. Then you feel on fire and it's easy. Doing this energy work, taking this time out when you feel under pressure, when things are challenging, when you feel stressed, when you're feeling in those lower levels of emotion, those lower levels of consciousness, that's when it's hard to do the energy work, but that's when you need to do the energy work. That's when you need to use this real shift method. And your ego will tell you that it's a waste of time. No, I should be sending out those emails. I should be doing this thing. I should be talking to these clients. No, you shouldn't. You should be doing the energy work first. Get yourself back in a state of energetic neutrality and then move forward from there. So with the real shift method, that's REAL, and then the last step is to take action. Now, some of the ideas that you're going to get, you're going to get ideas for what to post, what to talk about on social media, maybe to create a Fempreneur festival with a month's notice and run it single-handedly. You're going to get some crazy ideas. Go with it. You don't know where it's going to lead you, but each idea you get is a stepping stone to your next level and a stepping stone to that soul, heart-led purpose that you want in your life. So this is where I'm saying trust yourself, trust that you're being guided, trust that you'll get the ideas that will take you where you need to be. If you listen, if you do the energy work, even on the days you don't feel like it and you feel stressed and you don't feel like you've got the time, double down on those days. I promise you that you will see the results. Okay guys, I'm sorry I can't see any comments. I wish I could. I'm sure there are loads of comments. I'm going to double back and look at the comments afterwards. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I would love to know your thoughts. I would love to know how much this resonates with you, if any of you can relate to some of the things I've shared. I will be here for, of course, the rest of the day. So enjoy the rest of the festival, have a fabulous time, and I will see you all soon. Take care and go and follow your dreams.